What is going on, everybody? Today is finally the day we've all been waiting for. The 2021 NFL Draft will be starting tonight. We're finally going to get the answers to the questions and the speculations and the predictions and the mock drafts that we have been making for months. So it's only a matter of hours at this point. I expect a lot of fireworks and a lot of chaos tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. So for our final mock draft of the year today, we are only doing one round, but it's going to be with trades. So this is obviously the last pre-draft video until the draft, and then on Sunday, when everything is over, I will be revealing my full draft grades for all 32 teams. So going to be a lot of fun. I will be chatting on my Discord about a lot of the picks. I know a lot of people are doing live streamed reactions. I'm not. But if you want to hear my opinions live as things go on, I will be chatting in my Discord. Link is in the description if you would like to join. Let's get this one started. The first two picks are set in stone. Trevor Lawrence to the Jags and Zach Wilson to the Jets. Those two picks have not changed since my first mock, and they're not going to change here. We're not going to go crazy on the final mock draft. Pick 3. This is obviously where the draft begins. If I was a 49ers fan, I would have been paranoid for the past week, and especially now. So I'm kind of grateful that I'm not a Niner fan. Otherwise, this would be a very scary time. This would be the longest, 8 hours of my life, because I'm recording this at around 12 o'clock. So there are 3 quarterbacks to pick from here: Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones. All of the buzz the past 2 or 3 weeks has said that this pick is going to be Mac Jones, and I just still don't believe it. I will believe it's Mac Jones when I see it. I don't buy it. I think it will be Fields or Lance. The Niners have no reason to lie about this pick, but I just can't see San Francisco giving up all of those draft picks just to draft a player in Mac Jones who has some of these similar limitations athletically that Jimmy Garoppolo has. Jones does not have the upside that Trey Lance and Justin Fields do, and as a quarterback guru, I imagine Kyle Shanahan wants to work with somebody with the physical tools like Trey Lance and Justin Fields. My guess right now is Lance. I've been back and forth on this, but I just still can't see it being Mac Jones. If it does end up being Mac Jones, I really wouldn't be that surprised, but my gut is telling me Lance. Pick 4, Atlanta. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about this pick being traded. If the quarterback Atlanta really likes, maybe they will pick him, but a lot of signs have suggested that, especially with the Julio Jones trade rumors popping up, this could be a playmaker, specifically Kyle Pitts, and I'd be pretty surprised if Kyle Pitts is not an Atlanta Falcon when it's all said and done. Pick 5. This is where things get really interesting with the Cincinnati Bengals, another possible trade spot. Cincinnati is the first team who we know is not going to pick a quarterback, and this pick has been down to 2 players for the past couple of weeks in Penei Sewell and Ja'Marr Chase, and it seems like at the beginning of draft season, if the Bengals can get Penei Sewell, they have to do it. But the more people have thought about it, myself included, maybe it makes more sense to be Chase. In my what I would do mock draft, both Sewell and Chase were on the board, and I gave the Bengals Chase. I would pick Ja'Marr Chase here over Penei Sewell, but you cannot go wrong either way. Penei Sewell would also be an awesome pick, and I'm really 50-50 on it, but right now, again, my gut is telling me that they want to go for the offensive lineman in Penei Sewell. I would not be surprised at all if it's Ja'Marr Chase, but right now, my gut is telling me Sewell. So pick 6, we've got our first trade of the day. Now, a lot of the talk about possible trade backs in this range has been with the Lions, and it really seems like the Lions want to move back. That's not a major surprise, and as a Lions fan, I would love to trade back. I think that makes a lot of sense for a team who is just starting their rebuild, who only has 6 picks in this year's draft. The Lions would be wise to trade back if they could. But I think the Miami Dolphins are a team who's more likely to trade back than people expect. The Dolphins moved down from 3 to 6 last month, assuming that the guy they've been targeting will not go at 5. And with Penei Sewell and Ja'Marr Chase being linked to the Bengals, there is a realistic shot that Miami's guy is neither of those two. And there have been a lot of rumors that the Dolphins really like Jalen Waddle, so I could see him being their man. And if they do really like Waddle, especially with Ja'Marr Chase still on the board, I imagine that the Dolphins may want to trade down again. The Denver Broncos are sitting at 9. They are looking for a quarterback. I understand they traded for Teddy Bridgewater yesterday, but they gave up nothing to get him. Them getting Teddy Bridgewater, in my opinion, does not change their situation at quarterback. If they want to go and draft a rookie, they're still going to get their guy. And with Justin Fields still on the board, I think that makes a lot of sense for both sides. So the Broncos will be moving up. The Dolphins will receive picks 9, 40, and 114. So a 2 and a 4 are going to the Dolphins in order to move down 3 spots. For Denver, that's a fair price to get your guy. Justin Fields probably will not fall to 9, with teams like New England and possibly Washington looking to move up. And obviously the Lions are just trying to get anybody to get that 7th pick. So I could see Denver trying to jump Detroit in order to get Fields because of the possible rumblings of somebody moving up to 7. So that brings us to 7 with the Lions. And again, I imagine they want to trade down. The Broncos got their guy, and the only quarterback left on the board is Mac Jones. I think Carolina is also a sneaky trade down team. There are a lot of pieces that could interest them. And I think the jump from pick 15 to pick 7 might cost New England a future first-round pick, whereas the jump from 15 to 8 might not cost a future first-round pick. And New England has said they do not want to give up a first-round pick next year. So I think that could make it more likely that New England trades in the 8, 9, or 10 range of this top 10. Probably not 9 in this scenario, since the Dolphins are on the clock. That's an interdivisional team. But I think New England moving up to 8 would make a lot of sense. And I don't think there are any other takers, possibly for pick 7, who are looking for a quarterback. Arizona could try to trade up for a playmaker. Maybe they really want Ja'Marr Chase. The Chargers could trade up for an offensive lineman. Maybe not so much with Penei Sewell off the board. So things really get complicated here for a trade with Detroit. And Ja'Marr Chase is still on the board. So in this scenario, the Lions are unable to make a trade, and they end up with Ja'Marr Chase. I imagine Detroit really wants a trade back, but this is a really good consolation prize. My gut is telling me that the Lions won't pick a receiver, but with Ja'Marr Chase on the board, I think he might be an exception. I think it's more likely the Lions would go with a guy like Rashawn Slater over Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith. Again, that's just what my gut's telling me. I don't have NFL sources. But with Ja'Marr Chase on the board, I think that'll be too hard of a pick to pass up. So I have the Lions going Chase. And then at 8, as I hinted, the New England Patriots will be moving up to get their quarterback in Mac Jones. Carolina gets an absolute haul and picks 15, 47, and a 2022 third-round pick. So New England does not have to give up their first next year. They can still get their QB in Mac Jones. There have been a lot of rumors with the Patriots and Justin Fields for the sanity of the league. That would be absolutely terrifying. But I think there's still a solid shot that they do like Mac Jones. I mean, he fits the skill set of their previous longtime quarterback in Tom Brady. Now, let me just make this clear. I'm not saying Mac Jones is the next Tom Brady, but his skill set and lack of athleticism, more so winning off of his processor and his accuracy, that's more of the case with Mac Jones than any of the other quarterbacks like Justin Fields and Trey Lance, who New England could possibly trade up for. So maybe New England wants the NFL-ready guy, maybe they want the high-floor guy, and I could see them making a move for Mac. As I mentioned earlier, I think the Dolphins really like Jalen Waddle, and if he's on the board here at 9, I don't think Miami is going to further risk it. They were able to move back twice, get a lot of assets from Denver and specifically San Francisco, so I think they want to get their guy in Jalen Waddle, who they were not confident would fall to 12, hence why they moved back up to 6 in the first place. But with Ja'Marr Chase still on the board, I think they would be confident that Waddle falls to 9. So it's pretty much, would you rather Jalen Waddle, a 2 and a 4, or Ja'Marr Chase? If the Dolphins really like Jalen Waddle enough to where he at least compares to Ja'Marr Chase, then Miami will choose the route with Waddle and the extra draft picks. Pick 10, Dallas. I'm going to have them pick J.C. Horn. I was down to him and Patrick Surtain here with both corners on the board. Dallas really can't go wrong, but my gut right now is telling me they go Horn over Surtain. I would pick Patrick Surtain here, but I think J.C. Horn is also a pretty good selection as well. I think Surtain might be the safer pick, but Horn has a lot of upside. He seems to have the chip on his shoulder, and he seems to be the type of guy who would embrace going to a team like Dallas. Giants at 11. I've had this pick 3 mock drafts in a row, and it's Elijah Vera Tucker. The Giants have a hole at right guard, and AVT can plug in right there. He's played tackle, but I don't think he has the size and length to play tackle in the NFL. I think he has a chance to be a really good guard. We know Dave Gettleman likes the hog mollies, so although not a lot of people are predicting this, wouldn't totally shock me. Eagles at 12. I don't think I've ever seen Rashawn Slater to the Eagles in a mock draft, but it does make sense. The Eagles are also kind of starting a new rebuild of their own. They have bigger needs. They could go with a guy like Patrick Surtain or Devontae Smith. In my last mock draft, I had them picking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He would make a lot of sense too. But the Eagles are another team who traditionally is willing to invest high draft picks in the offensive line. Brandon Brooks at right guard is getting older. Jason Kelce at center is getting older. Lane Johnson at right tackle, he is getting older as well. And on the left side, you have a lot of unproven players such as Andre Dillard, Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo. So I could see the Eagles going with an offensive lineman earlier than expected. Rashawn Slater can play pretty much every position on the offensive line. He's extremely versatile, and I think he would really tempt a team like the Eagles in this range. So even though not a lot of people are talking about it, this pick wouldn't totally shock me. The Chargers are partly heartbroken because they don't get Slater, but they do get Christian Darrisaw. And if I was the Chargers, I would actually choose Darrisaw over Slater because the Chargers' offensive line actually is not that bad anymore. They do have a lot of fine pieces now, but they don't have a legitimate left tackle. And I think Christian Darrisaw has more potential than Rashawn Slater to be an elite left tackle. Slater is a higher floor. He has more positional versatility. But Christian Darrisaw has the makeup for an offensive tackle, specifically a left tackle. Great season this year for Virginia Tech. Get your blindside blocker for Justin Herbert. Slam dunk pick here for LA. At 14, we've got ourselves another trade. The real heartbroken team about 3 offensive linemen going in a row is the Minnesota Vikings because Vera Tucker, Slater, and Darrisaw would have all made sense for Minnesota, and if any of them were on the board, they'd be the pick. So I have them trading down. We know the Vikings love to accumulate as many late picks as they can. And there are 2 really intriguing players for the Cardinals still on the board in Patrick Surtain and Devontae Smith. There have been rumors that the Cardinals want to trade up for a playmaker, which I think is possibly true. And Devontae Smith would make a lot of sense, but Patrick Surtain is still on the board. He should not have fallen this far. The Cardinals have a major hole at corner. They do need some help at wide receiver, but at least they have some good players there. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best in the business. Christian Kirk is fine. You hope AJ Green can be a fraction of what he was in some of his good years with the Bengals. Maybe Andy Isabella can flip the switch on his career. So at least there's a lot of potential at wide receiver, whereas corner, it's pretty much just Byron Murphy, who's more of a nickel guy anyway. So they have a bigger need for corner, and with Patrick Surtain still on the board, they're going to take this offer. Wouldn't surprise me to see the Vikings stay here and pick a guy like Surtain. We know Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman love drafting their defensive backs, specifically their corners early, but they also love to accumulate mid-round draft picks, so that wouldn't totally surprise me in this scenario if Arizona were to move up 2 spots, jump Carolina, and get Surtain. So Surtain probably would have been the pick at Carolina with the 15th selection. And with the offensive linemen and corners off the board, there really is not a ton of picks who make sense for their needs. But Devontae Smith is still sitting there, and he actually makes a lot of sense for Carolina. They need playmakers more than people really say they do. DJ Moore is great. Curtis Samuel, however, is gone, and Robbie Anderson only has 1 more year left on his contract. So wide receivers are a bigger need than people think. If you're Carolina, you want to get the best possible value here. Adding Devontae Smith, a 2nd-round pick, and a feature 3rd, that's a great haul for the Carolina Panthers. I think this would be a great pick. Vikings at 16, they select Kwity Paye, edge rusher out of Michigan. I could see the Vikings possibly wanting to add some more pass rush. Jalen Phillips would be really interesting here, but Kwity Paye, I think, is the safer pick and one that the Vikings could end up making. At 17, we had the Las Vegas Raiders, who are one of the more, to put it nicely, unpredictable teams in the NFL. Specifically when it comes to drafting. And the Raiders have not done a great job these past few seasons. They've had a rough offseason so far. But I think Micah Parsons could really intrigue them. And I'm not just saying that because he's an athletic player from a big-name school with character concerns. Are all of those things true? Yes, they are. Which seems to be the types of players that the Raiders go towards. But I think Micah Parsons does make a lot of sense for a football player to the Raiders who need a lot of help at linebacker. The upside with him here at 17 is going to be too hard to pass up. I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is slightly the better prospect, but I think Micah Parsons is really good too. Dolphins at 18, I could see them trying to add some pass rushing help. Looking at a guy like Jaelan Phillips, keep him in Southern Florida. Phillips has arguably a higher ceiling than any defensive player in this draft class, but the medical with him is the concern. So obviously it's a little bit of a gamble, but I could see the Dolphins doing it. Washington football team at 19. They need offense more than they do defense, but Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is really good value. They need more help at linebacker. They need more coverage from that unit, and this is really good value for JOK. I think he's a top 15 player in the class. On my big board, he's my second highest graded defensive player in the entire draft, only trailing Patrick Surtain. So I'm really high on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I really like him. I think this would be a great selection for Washington. Bears at 20, they go Elijah Moore, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Seems like Elijah Moore's stock is really on the rise. I'm not as high on him as others, but I do think he is a really, really solid prospect, and I don't think he's a total reach here at 20, even if there are a few receivers on the board who I like better. Moore is a really good slot option who isn't the biggest guy, but I think he could be a really solid player for the Chicago Bears, and I think Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are going to want to make a safer pick because both of them know their jobs are on the line. So if they can get a guy who can possibly help them win games this year and keep their jobs, I think I could see them doing that. So at 21, we had the rare interdivisional trade. Yes, the Jaguars will be moving up with the Colts. Jacksonville will be receiving picks 21, 127, and a future 7th round pick next year. The Colts, meanwhile, will get 25 and a 3rd rounder this year, pick 65, the first pick in the 3rd round. Seems like maybe not enough for the Jags to move up, but that's a really high 3rd round pick, keep in mind. And the Colts are getting the same player at 25 who would have given them at 21. The Jaguars pick here is Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. You need to protect Trevor Lawrence. That has to be the goal. Protect Trevor Lawrence and help Trevor Lawrence. You need to put him in the best situation possible. He's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. You cannot afford to mess this opportunity up. Titans at 22 get Rashad Bateman, one of my favorite players in this class. I think this is outstanding value for Tennessee. Corey Davis is gone, and outside of A.J. Brown, there's really not a lot of talent in this receiving room. I have Bateman as my wide receiver 4 and a top 15 player in this draft class, so I think he'd be a great pick there. Greg Newsome, cornerback Northwestern to the Jets. I think Greg Newsome's being one of the more underlooked players in this draft. I think a lot of people think he's going to be a first-round pick, but people don't realize how good this kid is. I think he's special. I think he has the chance to be the best cornerback in this draft, and I think he's really good value at 23. Has the size, athleticism, the length, and last year for production was off the charts. There are some medical question marks with him, but when he's on the field, he's a stud. I love his pick for the Jets. And then the Steelers at 24 go Najee Harris. I would pick offensive line here. I think that's a really big need. But I think the Steelers are really trying to win this year, and I don't think Najee Harris is a bad pick by any stretch. I think Najee Harris is probably the best running back prospect to enter the draft since Saquon Barkley a few years back. So I really like Najee Harris. Value-wise, I don't have a major problem with this. I know there are some people who think you should absolutely not pick running backs in the first round. I don't think a team in the Steelers situation should use their top pick on a running back. I think they have bigger holes to address. But I'm also not necessarily saying, no, you're not allowed to pick a running back in the first round. If you do, it's an awful pick. No, that's not how it works. So I don't think this would be a terrible pick for the Steelers, but probably not the choice I would make. The Colts at 25, I said they were getting the same guy who they would have picked at 21 in defensive tackle Christian Barmore out of Alabama. Plus you're netting a high 3rd round pick. I think that's good value for Indianapolis, who might want another piece in the middle of that defense. Jamin Davis, linebacker, Kentucky to the Browns. I could see him going a lot higher than this. He's gotten some top 20, hell, even possibly top 15 buzz. I think that's a little bit wild, but we have seen crazier things. Davis has been probably the biggest draft riser the past month or so, had an outstanding pro day at Kentucky, had a really good season this past year, But Vaprode is really what caught people on, and his stock has just continued to go up and up and up. I think he's here at 26. The Browns are going to run this card up to the podium. Joe Tryon at 27, edge rusher out of Washington. The Ravens lost Matt Judon. They have a strong history of developing talented but raw pass rushers. I like Azeez Ojulari better. I would pick Ojulari here, but there are some new concerns about a knee injury he had that I do think could possibly bump him out of the first round. And it seems like Joe Tryon's stock, on the other hand, has been increasing as of late, so I could see the Ravens doing that. Saints at 28 get Tyson Campbell, cornerback Georgia. There's a lot of buzz the past day or so that they may look to trade up for Caleb Farley. I don't think they will, but maybe they could target a guy like Farley, especially since he's still on the board at 28. It always seems like there's a few players in the back end of the first round who you really don't expect. And I saw an article the other day that listed, I think, 5 or 6 players who could be surprise first rounders. I know Dylan Raduns was there, Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes, both Georgia corners. Javonte Williams was there, Carlos Basham was there. I think there was another guy as well. So there always seems to be 1 or 2 guys who you don't expect to be first rounders, but really right until the lead up of the draft, like maybe a day or 2 before they start to get first round buzz. Jordan Brooks is a prime example of that last year. He looked like a day 2 guy really throughout the entire draft cycle, but a day or 2 before he started to receive some first round buzz, ended up going to the late first round. So I could see that being the case with Campbell. Campbell is a really high ceiling, great athletic profile, and I think it could be hard for the Saints to pass him up if they want to go for a high ceiling corner who doesn't have the medical concerns that Caleb Farley does. Packers at 29, they get Creed Humphrey, center out of Oklahoma. I don't think this pick is bad at all. I really like Creed Humphrey. I think he's really good. But I think the way the Packers have managed their offseason has not been great. They let Corey Linsley go, and they re-signed Aaron Jones, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Aaron Jones is a great player, don't get me wrong. But the Packers drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round last year, and now that pick kind of feels like a waste. Plus, you now have a new hole at center, which still has not been addressed. I know they have Elgton Jenkins, who can move over to guard from center, but if you're going to make Elgton Jenkins your center, who the hell is going to play guard? So the Packers, I think, have really had a poor offseason up to this point. They could change that here in the draft, and as someone who very much dislikes the Packers, I've enjoyed watching how they've managed their team the past 2 months. But with that being said, I think Humphrey's a good football player. I think he's a first-round talent. I don't think the pick itself here would be bad. The Caleb Farley slide comes to an end. He goes to the Bills at 30. A lot of buzz that he could go in day 2, possibly slip out of the first round. That would not surprise me. And if he is still on the board after this pick, unless someone moves up, I can't see the Ravens picking him at 31 or the Bucs at 32 because they don't really need corner. The Bills do need corner, and I think him this late down the board is a really hard opportunity to pass up. At 31, we've got a trade. The Miami Dolphins will be moving up with the Baltimore Ravens to get their running back, and it's not Travis Etienne, it's Javonte Williams. And I'm not just putting him here just because I saw that article that said Williams could be a sleeper first-round pick. I don't think Williams is necessarily a sleeper guy who could go in the first round because it really would not surprise me that much. He's right at the level of Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, and if the Dolphins want a traditional early down runner, Javonte Williams, I think, is more so that than a guy like Travis Etienne. So that's why I think the Dolphins could do this. They really need to get their running back, and they're not going to risk waiting on day 2. So the Ravens will receive picks 35 and 81. The Dolphins will also be receiving 184 along with 31. So Ravens fans, I apologize. You're not getting 2 picks in the first round, and since we're not doing a second round, I'm only mocking you guys 1 player. But I guess you can make your own pick here. Terrace Marshall, Sam Cosmi, a bunch of really solid choices for the Ravens in the second round. Trayvon Murray as well. And then the Bucs at 32. I would pick a win-now type of player. I think Travis Etienne to Tampa Bay makes a lot of sense. If I'm the Bucs, I would pick Etienne over Javonte Williams. And there are teams like the Dolphins who should pick Williams over Etienne. You can really go either way. But I think Etienne really fits the Bucs because they need a playmaking running back who can be a receiving threat. That's the only hole on this team. They brought back every significant contributor to their Super Bowl team last year with the re-signing of Antonio Brown yesterday. Everybody's back. It's the same team as last year. But if they can add a legitimate receiving threat out of the backfield, then nobody's going to stop this team unless Father Time finally catches up to Tom Brady. So I would pick Travis Etienne here. but the upside with Jayson Oweh might be too hard to pass up. Their pass rushers are getting a little bit older. JPP isn't getting any younger. Shaq Barrett was just locked up, but Shaq Barrett can't do it alone. So the potential with Jayson Oweh might be too much for them to pass up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I appreciate the support throughout draft season. Gonna have a really fun next few days here, and then on Sunday, full draft grades coming out. Hope you guys are ready for that. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.